Hello and welcome to Mental Health Mondays. So happy to be here live with you guys today. It's been a few weeks, and so we missed you. And of course, happy to be with my co-host, Dr. Ricardo Whyte. Clint Ives is here. Clint, I feel like you're a co-host too.
He's an
Because
honorary. He's
you are
emeritus.
you are an honorary co-host, Clint. Clint, put a 1 in the chat if you just love being the first one every week. I love it that you don't like you are our cheerleader. Put a 1. Yes, we love that you are here. And again, this is our grand finale for this season, as they say, of Mental Health Mondays. We're going to be taking a summer break, even though we're not midsummer yet. What is today? June. It's today the 10th, the 11th. Today's the 10th.
Yeah.
Okay,
June
so
10th.
we're not even middle of June yet, but this summer is flying by. But we're gonna take a little break and then come back in our 3rd season. That's pretty good, Dr. Whyte. It's gonna be our 3rd season after this break. That's pretty cool.
It's absolutely awesome. Awesome.
That is pretty cool.
So we, of course, aren't going to leave you on a cliffhanger. It's going to be the reverse. We're actually going to finish a series.
Yeah, we're going to finish the series like we promised, and then
Absolutely.
we'll come back with something new, something exciting. But no, people are already putting in the chat. Welcome from South Africa.
Oh, hey, Amalia.
Yeah, yes, or Amelia. I don't know if you're saying it right or if I'm saying it right, but yes. But welcome from South Africa. We're happy that you're here. So wow, that's a blessing. I don't even know what time it is there. Could be middle of the night. It might be Tuesday morning. I'm not quite sure what the time difference is, but we are thrilled. Probably is Tuesday morning, but we are thrilled to have you here with us. And we just pray over the topic will be a blessing to you and to everyone else. And so welcome. And if anybody else wants to put in the chat where you're viewing from, we'd like to say welcome to you too. And definitely share this link. Share this link on your social media. What we've been talking about, the 4 horsemen, the communication styles that give you a sense of the direction of where your marriage is going, basically in a negative way, that is beneficial to every marriage.
Absolutely.
Every couple. And so if someone is married, they need to hear this. So definitely share this link on your social media, invite your friends, and let them know what we're talking about. But we want to welcome M.I. Ford from Pulaski, Tennessee. You're just right up the road from me. You're not that far at all. So welcome.
And Amelia, special props to you. It's 2:00 in the morning where she is.
2 a.m. I think, yes.
So
wow. Well, thank you for tuning in at 2 a.m. Yes, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, again, go ahead.
Yeah, the bottom line is we're really fans of Dr. John Gottman because of the attentiveness that the Gottman Institute has put into getting concrete data to undergird their recommendations. Like their studies are just so landmark. And so we thought, hey, why not discuss, just the 4 horsemen, because it is such of an important concept to understand so that you can perhaps take some of this information, working with your own healthcare team, but seeing how you can stamp out those 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that ruins relationships. And instead, you can put some of the antidotes that will actually foster love and help you start to kind of enjoy your relationship. So
yes. And that's what we want to talk about this evening. Just want to say hi to our dear sister Patrice. She just said she's here tonight. This is the first time I think I'm seeing you here, Patrice, and you're in Atlanta. You're not too far from me either.
We love us. We love us some Patrice now.
Yes, and Kathleen from Bowie, Maryland. I always want to say Bowie, but it's Bowie, Maryland. So yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see all of you here.
Bowie is a beautiful neighborhood in Maryland, right? You know that.
Yes, I've been there. I have some friends that live there. I've been there. Yes, it is.
Dope neighborhood.
It's nice.
It's like,
yes.
All right. And of course, Tamara, we love you too. We appreciate the support you provide us week to week. So, gotta give Amber her a shout out.
Yes, she makes this easier for us for sure. She definitely does. But yes, like you were saying, Dr. John Gottman his research and his wife's research has been amazing. And I don't know if you said earlier, but it's been like at least 40 years, almost about 40 years of research, almost 40 years. And so what they provide for mental health professionals like ourselves, and even to just directly to married couples, is it's priceless. It's just absolutely amazing. I can't say I know I use Gottman in all my couples therapy. So I'm literally quoting him several times a week, several times a week, because it's that helpful. And we're going to be talking about that this evening. We've already covered. Our first one was contempt. We talked about contempt and what that can do to a marriage, the communication style of contempt. We talked about stonewalling, and that one, wow, so many people always feel sometimes, a lot of times, people when there's a stonewalling type of communication style in a marriage, they feel justified, or they even feel sometimes I see that a lot, that they feel justified, or they think, well, I'm shutting down, I'm being quiet, like I'm doing the mature thing. And we talked about that last time, that shutting down is never okay in communication in a marriage. Like that's not going to help, but taking a break and communicating to your spouse that, I need to take a break. I'm putting myself in timeout. We'll come back together at a certain time and we'll discuss this. That's okay. But just complete silence, that's not okay, because we talked about this last time. You are still communicating, even when you're not. Even your silence is still communicating. You're still your facial expressions, your body language, you're still telling your spouse something. And it's typically not a good thing that you're communicating through your body language and facial expressions and just the silence. And then you leave a big space for them to just fill in the blank because you're not communicating. So they can just assume anything, and that just makes the situation worse. So that's stonewalling is definitely not a way to resolve an issue in the best way, and to actually get what you want out of the situation. You're not going to meet your goal in stonewalling. So we talked about that. Go ahead.
Well, stonewalling is like removing yourself while still appearing present. So like the body is there, but the body language is communicating that you're not present. The only thing saying you're present is that the body is physically there, but everything else is communicating, I am removed from this situation. And Gottman talks about bids, like in relationships, there are constant bids going, and stonewalling is a complete disregard of bids. It's a complete disregard, because here this person is, they might be doing a poor job of it, but they're making a bid for your attention. They're making a bid for your engagement. And of course, let's acknowledge it. Sometimes bids can be done in a toxic way. So we understand that there are legitimate things that precipitate you to think that I should respond with stonewalling. We get it. But just from the standpoint of stonewalling, it's a rejection. It's a rejection of bids, and it's painful. It is so painful to have your bid rejected.
Yes.
It's painful. Yes. It can be just crushing.
So, and hopefully we can get to some of that, how to do a proper bid, and even how to do love maps. Because Gottman also talks about that. That's communication, and that's helping for you to get to in a healthy way to communicate with your spouse and get to know your spouse better as well. So we can get to some of that. But today we're going to do 2 of the horsemen, because we would spend 1 week on each one previously, but now we're going to do 2 of the horsemen, and we're going to be talking about defensiveness and criticism.
You choose which one we're going to talk about first.
Well, I think let's go with criticism first. Let's go with criticism first.
Criticism is, and a lot of times we will talk as practitioners as if this
Mhm.
is helping us with our clients. This content helped me with my
Oh,
own relationship.
oh, most definitely. I mean, a ditto to that. Me too. Most
This
definitely.
helped me in my own relationship
Most definitely.
because, as somebody who likes to see things a certain way, you better believe I had a lot of criticism. I had a lot to say. And it was Gottman's content that helped me see the pathology in criticizing. Like, you can
Yes.
criticize someone to death.
Oh,
You can,
yes.
like,
Oh,
oh
yes.
my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, sis.
No, there's so much to say here. But oh, most definitely you can criticize somebody to death. And actually I'll stop saying my clients. I'll talk to about myself. I mean, meaning being married for 25 years and learning this stuff as well. Learning Gottman's information and others. It's we will be so quick. A criticism or a complaint is is always at the tip of our tongue, right? Instead of like an appreciation or a thankfulness to our spouse. Like we might even think an appreciation, or we might even think like, oh, okay, I like that they do that. But I told somebody, it might even been today, that it feels like there's a gate or something or a stone or something blocking us from saying, oh, I appreciate you. But when it comes to criticism, it just flows. It's just always right there. And
Well said.
that's what happens in a marriage. And I'll speak for women. You're a man, so you can speak for the husbands. But for wives, what also happens is because typically we're mothers as well. And because we're always dealing with the kids and disciplining them or telling them what they're doing wrong and doing that, it's like it's if we don't make a mental note to step out of our motherness when we spend time with our spouse, we become a mother to the spouse and start criticizing that spouse or that husband just like we do the children. And so many times that happens.
And that's painful because here you want to be this person's hero, but you just feel like, man, I can't do anything right. And so
Mhm.
now from a man's perspective, I just know how harmful, how devastating it can be to give my wife the experience that she can't do anything right, especially when
Mm.
she's working so hard to do things right. And
Mhm.
so I learned, don't say the first thing that comes to mind, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth. And that was to protect me against the reflex propensity towards criticizing. Like,
Yes.
for some reason, the negative stuff comes out so easily,
So easy. It flows like a
and
faucet. It
and
flows like a faucet.
and he even talks about the fact that, dude, before you do one negative, do five positives at minimum,
Yes.
or
Yes.
more.
It
But yeah, go ahead, sis.
I was gonna say when I share that piece, the 5-to-1 ratio piece with clients, this happened today actually. I had a client that said her eyes got big. She was like, "I have to say 5 positive things." And I mean, her eyes got so big. I was like, "Yes. If you say a negative comment to your spouse or criticize him or whatever, I said that I talked about Gottman and just showed her, talked about, the study that was done. And I said that you need to do five positive things, and that will help to heal that one criticism or negative thing that you said to your spouse.
Sis, in this conversation, can you distinguish between a criticism versus a complaint?
We were going to go there. Yes. Because I get that question a lot too, especially when I share this information. Because, like, well, then how do I tell them I'm not happy with something? So I always tell, my clients and people that you need to be able to express yourself. So we're definitely not saying, um, not to we definitely don't want you to suppress your emotions or what you're going through, but there is a way to do that. So with criticism, you're always saying you, like, you don't ever take out the garbage, or you always just spend too much money doing this, or you fill in the blank, whatever. And so that is what criticism sounds like, instead of saying, you know, I'm concerned about the money that we're spending each week. And I'm just wondering if we could just sit down and have a conversation about how we might be able to, what our goal is to save this much money, or how we might get some of the things we need without spending this much money, or whatever. So you're not saying you always, and that always, does anybody always do something, or you never, like, really?
Well, you see,
Always and never.
the hallmark is one is attacking the person's character,
Right.
and the other is attacking the issue.
Right.
And you as a team, you guys should be together attacking the issue rather than
Right.
attacking each other. So we hope you see that difference between a complaint versus a criticism.
Right. Like, the
So
issue is we don't have enough money at the end of the week, or at the end of the month. So that's the issue. And so
right,
now you're not the issue. That's the issue.
right. As opposed
So
to you don't make enough money, or you waste a bunch. You're a waster, or it's like you're attacking the person's character. Like, how do you come back from that? As
Mhm.
opposed to, let's keep this about the issue. There's a money deficit, and
Right.
then it's easier to. And it's like, no, we're partners in this, so why would I want to attack you? But we are having this issue. Let's solve it together.
Mhm. Mhm.
All
Just
right.
want to just want to remind everyone that we are taking your questions and your comments. And so please put in the chat any questions that you have, because we would like, about this topic, because we would like to answer them. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
Patrice
So
is
Patrice
here.
said, yeah, she said, could it be that when we don't know how to praise God for his goodness regularly, that it's easier not to give positive affirmations to others? Hmm.
Powerful. Hmm.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
that's pretty good. Could it be that when we don't know how to praise God for his goodness regularly, that it's easier? So, Sister Patrice, um, first of all, she just put on this awesome festival. So congratulations. I'm sure it was awesome. Props. Um,
Yes.
that said, I think the one thing with that is I want to leave room for an atheist who maybe who doesn't praise God, and
True.
yet they might have excellent skills with knowing to celebrate their partner, or knowing that they have the tools to know, hey, I need to keep this about the issue
Mhm.
rather than attacking the person. And this is an important point. Sometimes as believers, we may feel like we have a leg up, right?
Right.
Not realizing if you don't take the time to get the tools, it doesn't matter your proximity to faith. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
an unbeliever will end up with more tools than you because they've taken the time to develop the skills.
Right. That's
And
right.
this is a tool, the ability to recognize that, you know what, let's keep this about the issue. Let's remember that we're partners. That's a tool.
Mhm.
It's a tool available to the believer, and it's a tool
Mhm.
available to the unbeliever.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you brought this up, because sometimes we feel like, hey, my Christianity will be enough to protect me. And no, like, as those of us that go to church, we see some people who at times it's like, man, you could really use some tools right now. You could use some help. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to, but thank you for bringing up that issue.
Yes. No, for sure. For sure. And I like what you said earlier, like, and what Gottman shares too with this, is that the issue is the problem. You're not the issue. We're on the same team. I did the virtual marriage retreat a week ago, and I really honed in on that concept of being on the same team. And I used the analogy of, I'm a basketball fanatic, right? So I had to use the analogy of basketball, like, and that's a team sport. So if the team, and my favorite team is the Warriors, so we'll just use them. So, like, if Draymond is going at Steph Curry, or Steph Curry and Clay are not connected and they're not in sync, because you talk about there's no way they're going to win. They're not going to win. And that's the same thing in our marriage. Like, you're not going to win when you like look at the other person as they're the opponent. They're not the opponent. They're not the enemy. They are your teammate, and they're going to, together, you guys can win together.
No, and precisely. Well, you know, it's interesting because with teams, I predict the team that tends to win is the one whose mental chemistry is the tightest.
And that is, don't get me started on that. You're get me started. Yeah, but it's true though. But even, I mean, we could go even to individuals like on the team. You're right. So again, I use the Warriors, and we all know it's very public that Draymond has some issues and had to take a break, right? I mean, before they put him in therapy, I would yell at the screen and I put him in therapy. I was like, you need therapy, because he could not control. And when that happened, and not just him, but any person, when they lose it, or that you could tell their head is not in the right space, they're not going to play as well. And they're not going to execute as a team or do what they're supposed to do. And that's the same thing in a marriage. When we're talking about criticism, we're talking about communication, and any of these negative communication styles is the same thing. It's like our head is not in the game, and we're looking at our spouse as the enemy, as the opponent.
I'll see your Warriors, and I'll say my favorite teams, the Bulls, and then of course once Michael left.
Really? I thought your favorite team was the Lakers.
The Lakers. I was getting to that because I mean, I just love the Laker commitment to Showtime, to getting the best for the Lakers. Well, the common denominator, like with a number of their championships, is none other than Phil Jackson. And one of the things Phil Jackson gives priority to is mindset.
Right,
he takes time to get the mindset right. And relevant to our discussion is his commitment. One of the things I love about Phil is like when the game is critical, one of the things Phil loves to do is, this team has lost 80% of the time when this and this happens. He provides just the information you need to help and put you in the mindset to win. I mean, he's so genius. And in this discussion with your teammate, rather than providing information that hurts them, provide the information that would help them.
Right.
And that's the problem with criticism. Like you're providing information that tears the person down, rather than providing the information that would both build them up and address the issue.
Because something else that Dr. Gottman talks about is so crucial in communication. I don't care all these are the negative forms, but to have the proper communication or healthy communication in a marriage is to have, when you do have something difficult to share or something that could possibly come off as a criticism, you want to have a soft startup. So it's all about how you approach your spouse. And he even talks about if you want to get what you're wanting out of this conversation, or the thing that you're really needing your spouse to see, then you want to do that soft startup, because without the soft startup, it's going to be a hard startup and you're going to lose. You're not going to get what you want. If you want your spouse to sit down with you and review your finances because you guys are spending too much money, with a soft startup, that's possible, because his wall or her wall is not going to go up. They are going to actually listen to you and be open. They're not going to be defensive. So,
and it's like, what tool is more important in a soft startup than assessing where your partner is? Like, I can't tell you how many times a quick check-in with my partner helped me to see, this is the last moment that I need to say anything that might be derived as negative. They're hungry, they're tired, they might be feeling dejected right now. This is not the moment to share. No, let it go right now, and you can come back to this another time. Somebody asked a really, really good question. Elroy Norman. I mean, and there have been some fantastic comments. Starting off with Indigo Inspire Patrice. Again, we loved your comment. Comment on what you thought about, what do you think about our response to your comment? Let us know if it was helpful or not. Then Clint talked about dealing in absolutes is hyperbolic mess. It complicates things. And Gibson said, thank us both for our time. Thank you for your time and being here as well.
We appreciate
Elroy Norman. This is the question we should all be asking. He said, and we'll put it up there. So he said, what does winning look like in marriage? What does winning look like in marriage? What a fantastic question.
It is a great question. It is a great question.
Fantastic. You want to go first?
Well, I'll take a stab at it. I mean, one way winning looks like is that you're not communicating in these 4 communication styles that we're talking about. So you're communicating with your spouse without criticism or contempt or stonewalling or defensiveness. Like you're able to, you don't just move off of your emotions and feelings, but you actually open up this part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, and think about what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, make sure your tone is a certain way. So like you really have mastered we're all growing, but you have really put in forethought on how you communicate to your spouse, and you consider it, you take it so seriously because you know that the way you communicate is going to impact every other aspect of the relationship. And so that's one way winning looks like.
That's beautiful. And I'm like, as you can see, Sister Atonte enjoys keeping it about the issue. Let's be focused.
I mean, winning, there's other aspects of that can look like winning as well. You can share that.
I'm going to widen it out a little bit.
Okay.
And when you look at this life, I think if I said put a 1 in the chat, if you agree with this, I think I'd probably get a lot of 1s, but hey, let's prove it. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree that life is hard.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Life is hard. And I hopefully I'll see a bunch of 1s, right? Life is hard. But God gave us a gift of a brain. And the beauty of our brain is it's there to help us engineer solutions to the issues that we're dealing with. So the ultimate point of marriage is for us to collaborate and work together to make life a little easier. And in some cases, a lot easier. That's the whole point of our collaboration. A successful marriage is one in which we are collaborating effectively to make life easier for ourselves and others. That to me is what a good, thriving marriage. We are learning how to enjoy one another and not despise one another. That to me is marriage succeeding. So when it's the ultimate remembrance that we are teammates. We are teammates.
Right.
Too often in marriage, we feel more like opponents than teammates. Like, I mean, I remember there was a phase in the marriage where it's like we're competing with the resources. No, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do that. No, I'm going to do this. As opposed to, okay, now what if we sit down and we set goals we can agree on and then deploy resources accordingly? Totally different experience.
And that's, I talked about it in the retreat. I talk about it with my couples all the time. And I've said it on here. What you just described is maturity. You are approaching the marriage relationship with a maturity that I say takes, and I say this, to be happily married takes all the maturity that we can muster in this world, with God helping us to do that. Because you naturally don't want to do that. You naturally just want, but a mature mind or a mature person says, okay, I feel this way. My spouse feels this way. This is the situation. Let me approach it in a way. So because we're on the same team, let's win. Let's both win.
Well said. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's statement, but well, I mean, I had some other things to talk about winning too. As you were discussing, that was a good question because this is taking us into a good place.
Awesome question.
But also, winning in a marriage is just continuing to understand that you need to continue to date your spouse and what that looks like. And that can look like a lot of different ways, but definitely by continuing to date them, you're like still pouring into them and they're pouring into you. And so you're fulfilling each other's needs. I just want to give you an example, a little transparency. This just happened. This is me and my husband. I think it was Friday night. And typically, like if our week has been so busy or if there's certain things, I'll say, hey, could you not do anything on Friday night? Because I know we have, we go to, for those of you who don't know, of course, we go to church on Sabbath and we have church on Saturday. So we have church all day. I'm like, so can you like not have something planned, like either a Bible study or whatever, just because I want to spend some downtime with him. Right. So I've asked him for that. But because we have really been on top, we've really been on top of our date nights again and not allowing things to interfere with that. We've been doing that consistently. So this past Friday, he actually said, oh, I'm just going to go live. I'm going to go live for like 15 minutes or maybe 30 minutes. Well, he ended up being on there for an hour and a half. So when he was done, I remember he came in, he was like, are you mad at me? And I'm like, no, I'm not mad. You know why I wasn't mad? Because he had been pouring so much into me all throughout the week. And then it tops it off with the date night that I told him, these are the words I used. I said, my cup is so full, it's like overflowing. And so he's like, wow. So, and it was like a moment for both of us because we have busy lives and because we have actually put boundaries around that date night or the special time, whatever, we have for each other during the week, that he actually can go do more because I'm already good, if that makes sense. And so overly dating your spouse is so very important so that you keep that connection. And if, again, everybody has busy lives. And so you're able to allow them to do what they need to do after after you guys have already taken care of each other. And so I feel like that's a winning look.
I was laughing a little when you started because like when you get married and you commit yourself to this romantic relationship, it's like the world just lines up to oppose it. Like you have kids, okay, now they want your attention. Heaven forbid you get like sometimes 2, 3 kids, and like you're sitting on the couch, like the kids want to sit between you, And it's like, and it's like, and it's like, this is cute. They're cute and everything like that, but it's like, let's not forget the relationship. And that behavior is a bigger emblem of, if you're not paying attention, there will always be something between you, and you literally have to put intention into, no, nothing should get between us because this bond is what protects everything else.
Yes.
So we're not being mean, but this bond is actually what's going to protect you. And if this bond gets destroyed, that's going to cause you harm. So we have to be intentional as married partners about that. So
have to be intentional, and the marriage is more important. The marriage needs to come first before the kids. And I've said that on here before, but it has to come before. But let's get to defensiveness. Do we haven't even touched that?
The 3-second thing about criticism before we leave it, and that is criticism can set up a really awful cycle because you criticize, which leads the person to withdraw, which of course then makes you criticize even more, and of course they withdraw even more, and you're getting further and further and further apart. And instead of that, Sister Atonte has already mentioned the gentle startup is really, really helpful in terms of avoiding criticism and keeping it about the issue rather than attacking people's character. Defensiveness. Let's go to defensiveness now. Go for it.
Well, I was gonna tell you go for it because I had just been talking. Okay. But if you want to take a stab at it first, go ahead.
I'm down. So with defensiveness is about self-protection. Self-protection. Again, here it is, the person is making a bid. So they're bringing something to your attention. Hey, I'm concerned about X, or you did X, Y, or Z, and blah, blah, blah. And rather than centering on that person's experience, your focus is on self-protection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the picture of defensiveness that you should see is, here this person is trying to talk to you, and you're like this. Can you see that? You're just like that. Like, how
Right.
easy is it to talk? Imagine if we had to conduct this and the whole time I'm like this, you know?
Are
Um,
you paying? Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
picture of defensiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really a rejection of the bid, to
Right.
be heard, and,
Mm-hmm.
and and for you to kind of hear what's going on. What are your thoughts, sis?
Yes, no, you're rejecting your spouse feels rejected when we respond with the communication style of defensiveness. And when someone feels rejected, obviously pain comes with that. And it is just so very difficult to move forward. I mean, there's just you can move forward, but then it becomes a resentment. Like the person thinks like every time I come to you with something, that's I'm gonna do your thing. That's all I see. You're hurting me every time I try to come to you. And maybe you're not coming at them in the right way. I mean, it's very possible that you're not using a startup when you're talking to them. And then you're doing this. I like to say it's a complete wall and they just can't hear or see what you're saying. So I like to tell people when we come at them with a hard startup, it's a wall and you're wasting oxygen because they're not hearing you and they're not feeling you. It's just not happening. And so, again, circling back to the soft startup, that is the type of communication style that will it should keep defensiveness out of the communication. That hopefully will not happen. But again, that takes two mature adults.
Absolutely.
You're making the decision to come at your spouse with the soft startup, and they are making a decision to keep the wall, to keep that what stops them from hearing or feeling your heart out of the picture as well. And it's a decision. It's a
Absolutely.
decision that each person has to make. And it's the hardest decision to make when you're feeling those emotions of anger, frustration. There's the resentment there. There's so much there.
You talked about maturity before,
Mhm.
and maturity is about doing what might be counterintuitive. Maturity is about not giving in to your natural emotions. So, some of
Right.
the examples of defensiveness, including when somebody brings something to your attention, possibly about yourself, how do you respond? You make excuses, you deny responsibility, and one of the things that you might see in defensiveness is you counterattack. So
Mhm.
you say, well, hey, I'm you're wearing a blue shirt. Well, you're wearing a beige shirt.
Right.
It's just, back and forth, and you're moving further and further apart is what you
Right.
see.
When you go in that direction, you're absolutely forgetting that you guys are on the same team because you shouldn't be. Because I think you said throwing a punch or something like. Did you say that? Did you say throwing a punch?
I
Is
didn't
that
say
the analogy you used? That's not
no,
the analogy you
no, no,
use.
no,
Okay,
no.
that's what I saw in my head. Okay, not physically really throwing a punch, but with your mouth, with your words, just counteracting what they're doing. And so, yeah, that's you not seeing that you're on the same team or not thinking that way. This is a good question. Why do people often use defensiveness to cover up their true feelings? That's a great question.
Well, you said cover up. You said defend. Well, and this is why Sister Tante has said the word soft startup like several times.
Mhm.
When people defend, they feel insecure, they
Yeah.
feel attacked, they feel vulnerable. So they're covering, like we can't even get to how it is that they're feeling because they're covering it up because so it's almost like, you imagine if a person has a wound and you're ready to stab them, and if
Mm.
you're coming at them, hey, open up, I have something else for you. No, they're going to
Yeah.
defend themselves.
Right.
um
They're trying to protect
so
themselves.
so let me read the question again. Why do people often use defensiveness to cover up their true feelings? Um, And well, I think, and this is such an important question. They don't even get to their true feelings because they're triggered.
They're triggered.
They're
And
triggered.
they're triggered and there's fear too. There's
There's
fear.
definitely fear. There's definitely
Mhm.
fear, but you can't even get to the good stuff. Like you ever see an argument go back and forth and back and forth, and finally the person explodes because I'm scared.
Right.
Like if you get to the root issues, it wouldn't even be an argument. Like
Mhm.
what are the really core issues at the base of so many conflicts? I'm afraid. I
Right.
think you're being unfair to me.
Mhm.
Um, I don't have any more to give. Like these are things, if you just could say it without the extra energy, a person could actually hear it. But
Right.
instead, we're doing things like attacking, we're so on and so forth.
Mhm. Mm.
So powerful question though. A lot of times what's happening, Deborah, is people are feeling triggered. And as a result of that, they're not really entertaining, hearing, and then sharing where they really are. They're just in survival mode. And
And
so
that's that right. That's that fight or flight. Like you just put them in, and that shouldn't even be because
you're on the
again,
same team.
yeah, you're on the same team, and probably for the 10th time. That's why a soft startup is so important because a soft startup doesn't it should not trigger them, and it doesn't put them in that fight or flight emotion or feeling, or it doesn't trigger that in their mind. A hard startup does. And so knowing your spouse, getting to know your spouse and how you should speak to them, because everybody's different. So there's a certain way, like the way that I can come at my husband or how I need to enter in. Maybe Florence has learned that, okay, it's different for Ricardo, meaning like this is how she needs to enter in. So learning your spouse and how to uh, know how to talk to them without sending that wall up. I say it's like an automatic, there's automatic walls that just you push a button and the wall just moves and you can't stop it. You can't stop it until their emotional either anger hormones come down, and then you could hopefully try to come in and rationalize with them. But after it starts to go up, it almost has to play that process out before you can come at it again.
Yeah, well said. So she said, does personality, Elroy, great question. Does personality play a major part in defensiveness? So we tend to defend from the position of insecurity.
I was
And
just going to say,
so, you know, we defend from a position of insecurity. We feel vulnerable. Like, so when a person defends, a lot of times, and so when you think about the myriad reasons why a person can feel vulnerable, especially given the prevalence of trauma in people's past, and there's a
mhm,
variety of different types of trauma, but
right,
so few people get through their childhood into adulthood and have not experienced and sustained some level of trauma. And
right.
this, and so the problem with trauma is it puts you at risk for triggers.
Oh, yes.
So that what you'll bring to a situation after having been traumatized is you'll bring so much more energy than the actual stimulus warrants.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
stimulus warrants maybe a 3. Well, 3 out of 10, you're coming with a 30 out of 10, right? And it's just like, no, all that extra is from the past. It has nothing to do with that actual stimulus.
Right.
And so that's a factor. And so you said, personality. So when you think about personality, personality is shaped by a person's past. Um,
Hmm.
person's nurture and nature. So
Oh,
personality is
yeah.
a huge factor in
Mhm.
why a person might be defensive.
And just circling back to that trauma piece that you just mentioned, um, especially childhood traumas, like if you had a parent that was verbally abusive or yelled a lot, or either, just wasn't empathetic and criticized you and put you down, when you come at that spouse with that criticism, in that the criticism with the hard startup, that inner child is triggered because they can remember all those emotions and those feelings that they had when their parent would do that or their caregiver would do that to them. And so yeah, so
like, can we just paint the picture? Can we just paint the picture? So, like, imagine that parent yelling at that child, and now imagine moving that parent out of the way and you stepping into that position with your, hey, can you pick up your socks? Can you do this? But you are in the position of that parent. Guess what? You're going to get the heat that they wish they could have given to that parent.
Yes.
So you're like, what's with it? Why are you so? And it's like, because they're responding to you like you were that parent.
And they couldn't do it then, but they can do it now. And it's
not, oh my goodness,
not healthy now, but it wouldn't have been healthy then, because that's your parent, but it's definitely not healthy in the marriage. But that's how they're responding. They were wounded. Go ahead.
We hope these perspectives sensitize you to why you have to get your own mental health practitioners, because these stories are so nuanced. They're so unique. It's hard for you to take what we say and just apply it to your situation, because every situation is so nuanced. So this is where now, when you get your consultant, when you get your coach, your therapist, what have you, they can better apply it to your situation. If you've ever worn a custom tailored suit, it's one thing to take it off the rack. It's another to get it tailored to your body. Then it's a whole other game. So
it fits.
Just wanted to share that.
Perfect.
So
there's a question here. There's a question. It says, is defensiveness or really any, let's see. Okay, it's up there now. Is defensiveness or really any of the other horsemen a red flag in dating? Yeah. Oh yeah. Because and it's not like those behaviors cannot be unlearned, but if you're dating someone and that is how they're communicating, I want to, because I'm thinking of married couples, but if you're dating someone, there needs to be a conversation. And the conversation needs to be like, maybe we should part ways for now, and you get therapy and maybe I get therapy, and we learn how to, or maybe you can do it together and learn how to communicate. But it's definitely a red flag. At least pause, stop before you move forward. Don't you dare go down to the altar with those communication styles. Don't you dare.
Here's the context. Here's the context for the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Gottman's claim to fame, one of his claims to fame, is he said he was able to analyze, I think, 5 minutes of a couple's interaction and be able to predict with 91 to 93% accuracy if they would be together in, I believe it's 5 years. Okay. Now, so of course the question then became, well, what is it you're seeing in those couples that don't survive? And so he said, well, when you analyze the interaction, you see these four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Right.
Okay. So these four horsemen show up and contribute to a relationship disintegrating. Right. That's the context of the four horsemen. Now, of course, with each four horsemen, if you research them, you're going to see that there's an antidote. So in the case of defensiveness, for example, the antidote is when a person comes accusing you of something, there's usually some aspect of it you can take some responsibility for. What defensiveness does is it doesn't take into account that reality, and it just rejects the whole thing, which of course further escalates that person's accusation, rather than able to calm them down. If you're like, well, look, I hear what you're saying. This is what I can take responsibility for, and I appreciate what you're saying. And this is what I'm not going to take responsibility for, but I can take responsibility for this. That typically would calm a person down on some level. Right. But it's that wholehearted, I'm going to reject everything outright. Now, when I hear you ask that question, Faith, Like, Sister Atonte, you and I both know the dating is the sweet part. Like,
Right.
that's the easy part. We just getting to know each other.
They're
Why on earth are 4 horsemen of the apocalypse
even there. Why are they even there? Why they should, yeah.
We don't even have
So
any stakes yet. We barely been together. So it's like, so absolutely it should be something that really raises some concern and careful scrutiny to say what exactly is going on. And if I extrapolate, if I just see this play out going forward, is what's called compounding interest.
right.
I don't like the direction this is going in.
Right.
You know?
And yeah, and if they're showing that in the dating process, this is definitely a learned behavior. Like they've done this their whole lives, right? And so usually that type of communication is not in the dating process, because typically if it is,
that's a problem.
99.9% of the time, you never make it to the altar. You never make it to the proposal, because if somebody treats you like that in dating, you're not happy. It's just not that honeymoon phase that dating should be. And so usually you break up because
well, I'm with you, Sister Atonte, in terms of saying it should be a red flag. It should say, okay, let us see if we can't get some help. Because sometimes some good counseling, understanding, hey man, this is why you were being defensive. This is what's at the root of it. So you get some good counseling, you get some good therapy.
Right.
You'd be surprised. Some of these horsemen can be healed. There's an antidote listed for the but the problem is when people have the horseman and they don't want to get off the horse. They're like, no, I'm fine up here. I'm good. And you're like, no, you need to get off the horse. No, I'm good. Now that's a problem. That's really a problem, where it's important to see what boundaries need to be set, because you're entitled to a happy life.
And I'll just be transparent. You know me, you always say like, you're so transparent. Well, I'm just gonna be transparent again. And I don't know if you feel the way I feel about this, and probably because I am a marriage and family therapist and I deal with so many couples, and so I don't know. Like with marriages, I pour in. Like I'll do as much as I can do to help. I mean, I'm not gonna do more than the clients are doing, but I'm here to help. When it comes to the dating, I'm here to help them too. But I have to be honest. I'm about to be really transparent. I feel a little annoyed when people are just dating and they're coming in for therapy. Why do I say that? Because if you're dating and it's this messed up that you have to pay money to try to get it fixed, it's just like, you can pause it, stop and just be friends and just, try to figure something else out. But the red flags are warning signs to tell you to, just like a red light, it tells you to stop, because there's danger ahead if you run through this intersection. So a lot of people ignore those red flags, get married, and are miserable. And then they come back because they need more therapy. And by that time, you might have had kids, and now you done messed up the kids and all of this stuff. I am just saying, like, these are not red flags to ignore. They're definitely not. And those 4 horsemen should not be on the scene at all. Go ahead.
Yeah. Y'all need to cash up Sister Atonte some money right now, because she just took you behind the scenes. She just dropped the real on y'all, man. That you don't know how much to appreciate that she is just being as straight up and as real as possible.
Because I see it so much, and it's like, why go through your dating process? Should be your very happiest time, and it needs to continue into the marriage, but you should not be unhappy or miserable when you're dating.
And let me help. Let me clean it up a little bit. Sister Atonte is a mental health advocate. Sister Atonte is a champion for relationships, and this is all about. We definitely believe that you should, without question, get the support that you need. No question about it. Yeah. I think what I'm hearing you speak to is people holding on to something where all the signs are saying you guys probably should go separate ways. And I will admit, it's like, people sometimes treat ending a dating experience as if
Like a
they're ending a marriage. And
mercy.
the sad part in that is it's like you don't know what a gift it is to end a relationship before you have become one on paper. Like, oh my goodness, it's such a gift. Sometimes you're ending it before you guys have children together. You're ending it before you've merged families. Before you've merged professional lives, before you're living together. I mean, dude, it's the greatest gift. It is. I can't put it into words what an awesome thing it is to end it before you go down the road and like you link up and then have to separate after you've done all those things. No, you should be like have good feelings towards one another. Like, dude, we just
Right.
dodged the bullet. Good looking out, homie. You know what? Look, we just died. You just could understand on this side of marriage what we see. When you
Right.
stop before you get to this point, you
Right.
have avoided so much headache. I know it hurts now. I know it hurts now. And I know you feel like it's the same. But if you talk to a person who has been married and they
Oh,
have
yeah.
children together
A
and they
divorce
have
hurts way. A
families
divorce is much
and they
harder.
divorce, like they'll sit you down and be like, look, you have no idea.
Yeah.
I
No
know
idea.
it hurts because a lot of times this is your first time going through it, but the
Right.
pain of divorcing versus the
This is
pain
hard.
of ending a dating relationship. Oh my goodness, man.
Two
Whew.
different, two different things. Completely
It's
two
two
different
different
things.
experiences. It's
There's
two
a there's
different.
a question. There's a question here. It says, it then becomes a maturity question. And do both parties want to fight and find salvation in the relationship? Right. I mean, that's basically
Where's
what
that
we're
question? Where's that question? All right, so this is false doctrine. What is that? Is that false doctrines exposed? It then
saying. Oh, yeah.
becomes a maturity question. And do both parties want to fight or find salvation in the relation? Now, check this out. Listen to that word maturity. Okay,
Yeah.
listen to that word maturity, because maturity at the end of the day is skills,
Yeah.
and skills are agnostic. Skills are agnostic. Um,
Right.
like, did you develop the skills to understand what causes defensiveness and how to address defensiveness? What causes criticism and how to address criticism? What causes stonewalling? What cures it? What causes contempt and what cures it? Like,
Mm,
so that's why we're doing this.
right.
Because if you can understand these skills, that matures you. That's the
Mhm.
essence of maturity. And so then you said, and so do both parties want to find salvation in the marriage? And so I think what you're saying is, so
Are in the relationship.
yeah, like in the relationship. And see,
Mhm.
that's the thing. Because of the lack of skills, you can make the relationship experience so miserable. People are just like, I'm done. I'm
Right.
done. And so sometimes therapy can help in that it can help teach you that you guys don't have to hurt one another. What you're
Right.
doing in trying to protect one another, you're actually hurting one another. This is how you can actually have a different experience. Sometimes good therapy can resurrect the embers of the passion that
Mm,
was there in the beginning. That's
true.
what sometimes good therapy can do. Is like, yo,
Right.
man, why are you guys together? You remember why you guys were together? Oh my goodness, man, she was wearing
Yeah.
this, and yeah, and he did this, and he came up and he bumped and he tripped, and it was just so cute. And it's like you remember how
Right.
it
Yeah.
all started.
Yes.
And like you just find that sometimes you don't have enough experiences that bring you back to why
Mm-hmm.
you did it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that's what good therapy can do. You can remember what it's about and you can retool so that you
Mm,
have a better experience and so that your desire to preserve the relationship can actually be rekindled.
right. Right. No. Yes. It's amazing answer. And you know what? We're out of time, guys. But
Just
this,
like that.
yes, just like that. But And we are going to, this was the season finale, if you will, the season, but we're going to start up again in either late August, early September with live programming. We're going to, not every single week, but we'll re-air some of our past programs because we've been doing this for 2 years. Praise the Lord. And so we have quite a bit of information out there that we, want, if you haven't seen it, share it with you because it's going to be very, very helpful. But we are going to be back, but we're going to take a break. So definitely rewatch the first 2 and this one. We encourage you that if any of these horsemen are present in your marriage, currently present, definitely talk to your spouse about that you recognize that these horsemen are here and you want to learn how to communicate in a healthy way, and reaching out to a mental health professional, a therapist, a couples therapist, a marriage therapist who deals with couples issues would be a great place to start. But you can also read self-help books that will help you, that can help you also to learn how to communicate with your spouse, because you don't want these horsemen here because they're here because they're just directing you to the end. It's pointing to the end of the marriage.
The apocalypse.
Yes, the apocalypse. We don't want that. And more than likely, you don't want that either.
No, you don't.
You want it to go in a different direction. So definitely rewatch these programs, share it on your social media, because again, every single marriage in this world can benefit from this information. So we enjoyed being here with you guys. We're going to take a break, but we can't wait to come back and start our 3rd season. So still be looking out for your notifications, because we will be re-airing some of sporadically throughout the summer, some of the older programming that has powerful information in it as well. Absolutely. But have a great summer, and we will see you when we come back.
Great co-hosting with you, Sister Atonte. Safe travel. Congratulations. And
all right. Okay. All right. You guys have a good evening.
Yeah. Bye-bye.